developed, it's high time to introduce our first speaker and company. And it's my great pleasure to introduce District Metals, a Canadian mining company with operations in, for us Swedes, historic areas like Bergslagen as well as British Columbia. The company specializes in prospecting, developing and further distribution of precious metals. And here to tell us more is the CEO, Gareth Ainsworth. Gareth, please. The show is yours.
Excellent. Thanks for having us here, and it's a pleasure to be presenting the District Metals story. So, I mean, we've got some cautionary statements that I'm not going to go through in detail. You can find this on our website. And I'm just going to start fairly high level here with the opportunity that we have at District Metals. So the management, I mean, we're very technically focused. We have a lot of experience from discovery through to production. We've also raised a lot of capital to, in order to do this. So we're focused within the Bergslagen district of south central Sweden. It's a very good jurisdiction, very well endowed with mines such as Garpenberg and Zinkgruvan. The political arena is very good to work in as well, and permitting is excellent. So we are focused on our Tomtebo project. It is our flagship. It has numerous historical mines. It's an advanced stage exploration, and very importantly, it sits right in between the historic Falun mine, which is 25 kilometers to the northwest, and Boliden's Garpenberg mine, which is 25 kilometers to the southeast. So we've had a lot of success in 2021 and 22 drilling at the Tomtebo project. I'll get into the details of that, but I mean, one of the most recent highlights that we put out was 25.5 meters of 8.2% zinc equivalent, and that compares very nicely to what's being produced at the Garpenberg mine 25 kilometers away. And then also, we like the Bergslagen so much that we've acquired 2 more advanced stage exploration properties that are within 40 kilometers of the Tomtebo property. And actually, the Gruvberget project is one of those, and we drilled that this past summer, where we had 5 holes, about 1,100 meters drilled. Out of those 5 holes, we hit good mineralization in 4 of them, and the highlight hole there was 9.1 meters. It's 6.1% zinc equivalent. I'll get into details about that further on. And also, we're very excited that in about 3 weeks we'll begin drilling on our Bakar property in British Columbia. Now, this is a very high priority, multi-parameter copper target supported by good geochemical and geophysical results. So I'll get into details with that as well. And so the company's got about 87 million shares out, 7 million market cap, and we have about 1.2 million in cash currently. So just a bit about some certain team members here. Myself, I'm a geologist by training. A lot of my career has been spent in the Athabasca Basin. I took a lead role in the discovery of the Triple R deposit when I was with Alpha Minerals. That was bought out in 2013 for 189 million by Fission Uranium. Then I moved on to NextGen Energy. Had a lot of success with the Arrow discovery and subsequent discoveries along the Patterson Lake corridor. And then I left NextGen in 2018, got a hold of a shell company with some supportive shareholders, and went on about a 1.5-year adventure looking for a project that got us really excited. And that's where we found our Tomtebo project in the Bergslagen. So once we established that the Bergslagen was going to be our area of focus, we started to build some team members around that. Hein Rat joined us in early 2021, officially as our country manager. He's got a heap of experience with Boliden and also with polymetallic deposit and exploration in the Bergslagen. He's executed on our drill programs beautifully. And then we've also added Rodney Allen, who's a bit of a godfather in the Bergslagen. He's written many papers on this style of deposit. He was with Boliden for worked with them for over 2 decades, and I mean he still consults to them to this day. But his claim to fame was he led the team that they basically made some discoveries that took the Garpenberg mine from near closure to being a tier 1 asset for Boliden today. Just a bit about the share structure here. It's been very important to us to get the right investors on the share registry. We've done exactly that. We've got a large fund base with Extract Capital out of New York, Cambrian Capital out of San Francisco, KJ Harrison out of Toronto, a number of European funds such as Commodity Discovery Fund, Commodity Capital. The list goes on. Well, I should mention Sprott USA is also a large shareholder of District Metals as well. EMX Royalty is a shareholder because we acquired our flagship Tomtebo property from EMX in 2020. Management also holds a fair portion of shares in the registry. Myself, I have 2.7 million shares, which I've purchased anywhere from 12 cents up to about 40 cents. And just to kind of zoom in on the Bergslagen district here, you can see where our Tomtebo Svarho project is, Gruvberget. This is a highly metal endowed district where you see polymetallic deposits and mines that are just gigantic. And this was one of the main draws for us into the Bergslagen. You can see Tomtebo's right in between the Falun and Garpenberg. And just to put things into perspective, a good sized polymetallic deposit is about 10 million tons in most parts of the world. And when you look at Garpenberg and you add up all those categories, you get over 200 million tons with good grades of silver and zinc. So these are gigantic. And they're mining Garpenberg down at the 1,400 meter level. Same with Zinkgruvan. They're doing it very well and making a lot of money. I mean, Zinkgruvan's got, it's getting close to 100 million tons of material, especially when you add in the copper, cobalt reserves that they also have at that mine. And just to get a good feel for like how productive the Garpenberg mine is for Boliden, last year they produced over 3 million tons with very good grades of silver and zinc. That's got an in situ value of $280 per ton thereabouts. And when you look at their OPEX, their operating cost to mine, it's only $56 per ton. They have a cutoff down to 29, which is very low. Especially, you got to think that they're mining this down 1.4 kilometers below the surface. One of the really big things that is a kicker for them is that there's a high precious metal content, largely coming from silver. And a lot of us believe that silver prices will go higher. And when we hit $28, $30 an ounce of silver, then Garpenberg actually becomes a silver mine more so than a zinc mine. So zooming in on the Tomtebo project, you can see in the red outline there, we cover 17 kilometer strike length, 5,100 hectares. We've got the Tomtebo mine in the southwest, the Lovas mine in the northeast, a number of other mineral occurrences. We have the same geology, structure, alteration, mineralization styles at Tomtebo that you see at Falun and also at Garpenberg. But Tomtebo, until we came on the scene, had just not seen any modern systematic exploration. So that's really where we saw the opportunity, and we've had a lot of success with our drilling to date. So to get a good feel for the size and scale of these type of deposits in the Bergslagen, if you were to copy and paste the Garpenberg mine onto the Tomtebo project in long section, you can see, it's starting from surface with the original open pits and then goes down to a depth of 1,600 meters. So you could fit 3 or 4 Garpenberg mines within the 17 kilometer strike length that is Tomtebo property. So you can see the Tomtebo mine to the left there. It's got an exploration drift at the 200 meter level. A number of drill holes were done off that exploration drift that were horizontal that showed mineralizations open at depth. And then the Lovas mine, it had workings down to 190 meters with mineralization open at depth. So those have been our 2 key areas of focus on the Tomtebo project to date. And so just to get into some of our drill results from 2021 and this year as well, a number of really solid drill intercepts from the Steffenberg zone, which is at the northwest quadrant of the mine complex. So holes 1, 25, 28, 38, ranging from 12 to 30 meter intervals with really solid grades of 8 to almost 15% zinc equivalent. Again, these compare very nicely to what's being mined out at the Garpenberg mine today, and these are all very shallow intercepts as well. So there's a lot of potential for expansion. So our latest hole that we released at Steffenbergs was hole 38, where we had 25.5 meters of 8%, 8.2% zinc equivalent. But what was really interesting about this hole was at the bottom of that intercept, we had a narrow 0.4 meter interval with bonanza grade gold. And we'd never seen it to this level before. I mean, 384 grams per ton silver, 855 grams per ton, 384 grams per ton gold, 855 grams per ton silver. It really opens up a new target for us where we're seeing enrichment of gold along the outside of massive sulfides at the Steffenberg zone. So we'll continue to drill this at depth and also along strike. And then if you look over at the northeast quadrant of the mine complex, you've got Oscarsgruvan. This is a bit more silver rich. So holes 2, 3, and 4, we're seeing intervals from 6 up to almost 13 meters with very good grades in the 7 to 8% zinc equivalent type level. Mineralization is open in many directions. We really like the area between Oscarsgruvan and the Steffenberg zone, which has seen very few drill holes. But one of the key things about Oscarsgruvan is the style of mineralization here is more similar to the style of mineralization that you see at Garpenberg. And I won't get too much into the geology, but it's an alternating sequence of volcanic rocks with limestone where the mineralization has dropped out at those contacts. Very importantly, at the Tomtebo mine down in the south, where we've got Gårdsgruvan, we have some very good copper intercepts, and any significant polymetallic mineralized body in the Bergslagen will have a feeder zone which is very copper rich, and there's also a gold credit here as well that is quite significant, and we have this here on the Tomtebo project at the historic Tomtebo mine. So I always put this table in just to kind of clarify, what's making up the zinc equivalent that we're reporting for the most part in the previous slides. So at Steffenbergs, we're seeing zinc values of 7, 8%. The silver values, 40 to 50 grams per ton, and then all the other metals as well. Oscarsgruvan, we see up to 150 grams per ton silver just on its own, with the zinc ranging in the 2 to 4% type range. And then of course Gårdsgruvan, I mentioned it's very copper rich, where we're seeing copper up to 3% on some solid intervals, with a good gold kick as well in the 0.5 gram per ton type range, which is again very much in line with what you see at the Garpenberg mine. Also, outside of the historic Tomtebo mine, on the far left, you'll see the Tomtebo mine associated with a magnetic high anomaly. We've got many other magnetic high anomalies on the property that some have coincident gravity anomalies and conductive anomalies that have not been tested. And these magnetic anomalies are very, very important. They're associated with mineralization that you see at Garpenberg, which is in the middle slide, and then also very intimately associated with the Falun mine, which is on the far right there. So moving over to our Gruvberget property, this is located 40 kilometers to the northwest of our flagship Tomtebo project. We acquired this late last year. So we advanced this to the drilling stage quite quickly because we really liked the historical results that we were seeing. So the north zone has some very solid historic drill intervals that span continuous mineralization 550 meters along strike, down to a depth of 160 meters, and it is wide open at depth. So we came in here and we drilled 5 holes. We went underneath the historical drilling, which are those red circle intercepts. Our intercepts are in the blue, and we had some very good follow-up holes that showed up to 9.1 meters at 6.1%. And something that's very important about these results that we got from our Gruvberget North Zone drilling is that the mineralization style that we saw here is similar to what you see at Zinkgruvan. Now the mineralization or the mineral resources at Zinkgruvan go down to 1,600 meters, and we're seeing mineralization at 160 meters that's wide open at depth. So there's a huge opportunity on the vertical extent here alone. And the north zone is really 550 meters, but within a very prospective trend that's almost 2 kilometers long. So it's just the beginning at Gruvberget, and I can see us drilling some very aggressive programs, stepping it out beneath the north zone and also the south zone. Moving to our Svarjo project, you can see it's about 25 kilometers north of our Tomtebo project, just over 1,000 hectares. So Svarjo's seen some very significant historical production, just over 1 million tons with grades that are higher than what you see getting mined out of the Garpenberg mine last year. Again, it's got the same geology, structure, alteration and mineralization styles as what you see at Tomtebo, Falun, and Garpenberg. So we actually flew an airborne geophysical survey that picked up a magnetic and conductive anomaly associated with the Svarjo mine. But very importantly, this anomaly continued 600 meters to the southwest outside of the mine infrastructure, where there are some historical holes that have hit quite significant mineralization. So we're very much looking forward to coming in here and doing some closer space drilling to the southwest of the Svarjo mine and seeing what we can come up with there. Now, lastly, moving to our project in British Columbia called Bakar. Now this is a very exciting target that actually kind of surprised us. We 2 years ago, we didn't know that we were going to drill this, and we kept doing surveys that gave us correlating positive information that have basically forced us to the point where now we have to drill this. So initially we drilled a VTEM survey, which picks up conductive bodies, and you can see that there's a black on the right figure. There's a black kind of oval that shows where that main body is. It's about 1.5 kilometers long by 0.5 kilometer wide. Then we sent in some geologists to do some ground prospecting, and they actually found outcrop with 4% copper right on the edge of it. So that was very, very positive. And then we flew a ZTEM survey, which looks down a bit deeper at at some of these a bit deeper for the conductivity, and they're also used for looking at copper porphyries. So that actually showed a coincident anomaly with the VTEM and with the 4% copper. Now we have to drill this. So we'll be starting drilling in about 3 weeks. We'll be doing 800 meters in 1 or 2 holes. This has never been tested before, and it has a very good shot at grassroots discovery here. Now we own 20% of this project, but if the geophysical anomaly is outlining economic minerals or economic resources, then 20% of that will definitely bring shareholder value to District Metals. That's all I have for District Metals for now, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that, Garrett. Very interesting to get a lecture on Swedish mining here. Could you just answer me this? I mean, you're a Canadian company, but operating in Sweden. So how would you compare the two jurisdictions when it comes to exploration and mining?
Yes, I mean, so when we were looking at projects to put into District Metals, it was a 1.5 year long process, but the Bergslagen really stood out. I mean, the Bergslagen this is where you come to get very large, high-grade polymetallic targets, like that you cannot see anywhere else in the world. And then you also look at the fact that much of that ground has not been explored in a modern sense with modern technology. So that's kind of our specialty, is a very geoscience focused company. And then also you look at permitting, and that's, I mean, it takes us 6 weeks to get our drill permit, which is faster than many other jurisdictions around the world, and that includes Canada. And then the cost to operate in the Bergslagen is quite good, because our cost to drill per meter is $300 all in. And that's largely due to the fact there's very good infrastructure in the Bergslagen. I mean, when you're in northern parts of Canada, it can be $400 to $1,000 per meter.
So jurisdiction and the asset, as it were, are quite good, you would say.
Absolutely.
And then you're listed in Canada. May I be so bold and suggest that that is because you get a premium to your net asset value?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's, I mean, obviously, Canadian resource sector investors, they're very familiar with the industry, and that's a lot of financings are done through the TSX Venture and TSX big boards.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Just raise your hand and you get a mic. And while you consider, you mentioned that this is a asset-rich area. So how come the Boliden and the Lundin Oils are not there?
Very good question. And actually, I'll take a step back because many people don't know this, at least in Canada and the US, that foreign companies weren't really allowed to operate in Sweden up until 1992. They weren't allowed to own more than 49%, and were not allowed to operate mines and whatnot. So that prevented a lot of foreign companies from operating in Sweden.
And if we look at one of the main topics today would be inflation, cost inflation. So obviously, if you're a developer and not a producer, you may get away with not being completely affected. But how does that affect you? Has it affected you?
I mean, inflation is definitely affecting all, especially on the drill contracting side. Steel's gone up, parts, equipment, supply chain. We didn't find that our costs went up too much this past summer drill program. And I think actually drilling activities around the world are slowing down somewhat and taking a pause. So that's going to probably help the pricing. But I wouldn't say they've gone up too extensively, like maybe 10 to 20% at the high end.
So it's not the most worrying concern for you?
No, definitely not in Sweden. When we already have quite low drilling costs compared to other parts of the world.
Okay, excellent. Any more? Well, in that case, Gary, thank you very much. And I'm sure there will be more questions outside there.
Excellent.
Thank you
very much.
I think we give him a round of applause. Thank you.